The journey inward is never what we imagine. It's not a gentle descent into quiet self-awareness or an uplifting realization of inner strength. For many, the true path to self-knowledge begins not in the light, but in darkness, in the brutal, disorienting confrontation with the self that has been hidden all along. This is the shadow, as Carl Jung called it, the part of our psyche made up of everything we suppress, deny, and disown. And when we finally face it, when we finally dare to make it conscious, the result is often not motivation or clarity, but collapse. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This quote captures the essence of why so many of our life decisions, our careers, relationships, and even hobbies feel like they come from somewhere beyond our awareness. The truth is, they do. The unconscious, with all its unmet needs and unresolved pain, pulls the strings behind our conscious motivations. It is a puppeteer we rarely acknowledge. But there comes a point for some, through crisis, therapy, loss, or sheer existential curiosity, when the veil thins. Suddenly the clean, curated self-image we have spent years building begins to crack. We begin to see patterns we've ignored. We realize that the pride we took in our discipline was sometimes a cover for control issues, that our kindness masked a deep fear of rejection, that our drive for success was a desperate attempt to be enough. These moments of recognition are not quiet, they are thunderous, because in them the ego begins to tremble. To confront the shadow is to watch your carefully constructed identity fall apart. It is to see the story you've told yourself about who you are disintegrate bit by bit. At first, it feels like betrayal. How could you have not seen this sooner? How could you have lived a life that wasn't truly yours? The emotional response is often grief. Grief for a version of yourself that never really existed. Grief for the time lost. Grief for the innocence of not knowing. And from this grief arises a strange kind of silence. It's not peace. It's not contentment. It's emptiness. The motivational structures that once held you, ambition, external validation, perfectionism, lose their grip. You no longer want to strive, to achieve, to prove. It's not that you're lazy, it's that you no longer believe in the game. And once you stop believing, it becomes impossible to keep playing. This is the shattering of identity. You find yourself in a psychological free fall. You are no longer who you thought you were, and yet you do not know who you are becoming. It's a liminal space, an in-between reality where the old self is gone but the new self hasn't fully emerged. In this place, motivation dies, because motivation, as you've known it, was tied to the ego you just watched crumble. This death is necessary, and yet it feels like failure. You look around and see others still running toward their goals, still energized by the hustle, still confident in who they are. And you feel left behind, broken, useless. But in truth, you are not behind. You are just ahead in a deeper process that many never dare to enter. You are not broken. You are breaking open. Jung taught that growth does not come from chasing the light, but from making the darkness conscious. Enlightenment, he said, is not found in imagining figures of perfection, but in facing the shadow. This process is inherently destabilizing. It's not glamorous. It doesn't make for good social media content, but it is the beginning of wholeness. The irony is that for a time, this wholeness feels like loss. Because when the false structures fall away, nothing immediately replaces them. You are left raw and exposed, and in this rawness, it's hard to move forward. You don't know what you want anymore. You don't know what matters. You don't know who you are, and so you stop. This stopping, this pause in drive and momentum, is not regression. It is the psyche's way of recalibrating. The old compass has shattered. You can't navigate with it anymore, and the new compass hasn't formed yet. So you wait, in the dark, in the silence, in the terrifying stillness of unknowing. In the wake of self-confrontation, there is a void. Not the void of nihilism, not immediately, but a blankness. The silence after the ego dies is not liberating at first. It is disorienting, You no longer know what to care about. You wake up, and the goals that once lit a fire in you now feel absurd. The schedules, the plans, the ambitions, they hang in the air like relics of a religion you no longer believe in. This is where many find themselves confused. They thought confronting the shadow would unlock power, that by acknowledging their darkness they would become whole, inspired, high-vibration beings with unstoppable purpose. But real shadow work doesn't work that way. It doesn't add, it subtracts. It takes away illusions, takes away false motives, takes away the masks, and when the masks fall off, you realize you are performing your life, not living it. The collapse of motivation is a direct symptom of this realization, and it is terrifying, especially in a world that idolizes productivity, that tells us we are only valuable when we are moving, creating, achieving. To lose motivation is to feel like you are failing at being human. But in truth, you are simply passing through a sacred, necessary stage in the psyche's renewal. When motivation disappears, what remains is restlessness. You want to care, you want to move, but you can't force it. Every effort to revive your old habits feels like wearing someone else's clothes. They don't fit anymore, and forcing them only makes you feel more fake. So you stop trying, and this surrender is mistaken for depression. It may feel like depression, but it is deeper. It is deconstruction. It is the self pulling away from everything that isn't real. You may try to return to your old life. You may rejoin the hustle, sign up for a new course, chase another opportunity. But if your shadow work was honest, these attempts will feel like betrayal. The body knows, the soul knows, you're no longer compatible with the illusions you once lived in, and so you'll burn out again and again until you accept that you cannot go back. This is the void, the gap between death and rebirth. It has no timeline. For some it lasts weeks, for others years. It is not a problem to be solved, it is a mystery to be lived. Jung knew this. He wrote not of instant transformation but of slow integration. The shadow is not healed in one moment of realization. It must be brought into consciousness again and again, and each time it emerges, it brings more truth, and with it, more disillusionment. The absence of motivation is not a failure. It is a rite of passage. It is the psyche's way of protecting you from rebuilding a life on false foundations. It says, pause, reflect, wait, feel. Let the silence do its work. And in this silence, something remarkable begins. Small flickers of real desire begin to emerge. Not the inflated desire of ego or fear, but the quiet longing of the soul. You find yourself moved by beauty, drawn to authenticity. Curious about things you never gave yourself permission to enjoy. This is not yet full motivation. It's too delicate for that. But it is something deeper. It is resonance. And resonance is the seed of real purpose. Eventually, from the wreckage of your former self, something new begins to grow. Not a replacement identity, not another mask, but a self that is informed by the shadow rather than afraid of it. A self that no longer splits off its darkness, but incorporates it, learns from it, allows it to speak. And with this integration comes a new kind of motivation, one rooted not in compensation, but in coherence. This motivation doesn't always look impressive from the outside. It's not loud, it doesn't shout its goals from the rooftops, but it is steady, it is alive. You begin to move not because you need to prove anything, but because it feels like you. You create not to be seen, but because something within you needs to be expressed. You serve, not to gain worth, but because connection feels right. This is the motivation of the integrated self. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And this becoming does not happen in a straight line. It happens in spirals, in breakdowns, in dark nights of the soul. It happens when you are willing to sit in the stillness of not knowing, to lose the motivations that once defined you, and to wait for the real ones to emerge. You no longer need goals to feel worthy. You no longer need to be busy to feel valuable. You understand now that being is enough. That presence is power. That alignment, even in small things, is more fulfilling than achievement without authenticity. And with this realization, you stop chasing, you start listening, and what you hear in the quiet moments is the voice of your deeper self, whole, human, and finally, home.